Watch Buhari's man defends their insensitivity in removing subsidy without any proper planning. He says the government does not have money to fund subsidy, so the ordinary Nigerians should suffer for it. Listen to him speak.
The announcement by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for the removal of subsidy, the NNPC gave its support to the move, and immediately, at first, before you said that we have enough stock to take us, then yesterday, there was a pump price increase, price adjustments as you call. What's the rationale for this? One time you say there's enough stock, now you're saying there's an increase, all of a sudden.
Thank you very much. Good morning and pleasure being on this program. First of all, stock is different from pricing. You have to be sure that you have enough stock to guarantee continuous supply. This is a provision of the law that NNPC must guarantee energy supply sufficiency for this country. But the second part of it, that you must have continuous supply. Continuous supply comes from suppliers and those who make the product available to, whether it is locally refined or imported from other jurisdictions, you must pay for it. And now, because of the subsidy regime since 2021, by the way, I'm sure you are aware that the Petroleum Industry Act clearly indicated that the subsidy regime will terminate latest by the 17th of February 2022. We got to 2022, government in its wisdom, government can choose to spend money on its citizens. We are completely agree with it. There are subsidies all over the world in very many commodities, agriculture, and so on and so forth. So government decided that in the fiscal 2022, a provision was made, irrespective of the fact that the law said you should do price petroleum at the market price. It said, look, we're going to provide money for subsidy. It is not the business of NNPC to worry about this. And we agree completely. We executed that will of government. That provision was made in 2022. And again, in 2023, up to half year, government still made another provision of subsidy to enable NNPC continuous supply at the subsidized rate. But the complication is that you can make provision in budget, but you have to finance it. And that financing part of it is absent. I can tell you, since 2022, when that provision was not a single naira was paid to the NNPC to provide those subsidies. And the implication of this is that you have to take the cash flow of the NNPC to continue to supply petroleum into the country. And it has become a daunting task, almost impossible for NNPC to continue to bear this cost. And therefore, when we saw the alignment of government with the realities of the law and the very fact that government does no longer have the money to fund this, that means it is eliminated by the facts of the law and also by the realities that government doesn't have the money anymore. And that's why I say, look, we are providing this product, you do not have the money, and since you don't have the money and this is the situation we are found, we say we will sell this product at its market price so that we will be able to continue to supply product into the market and also avoid any potential default. We're happy that this is not happening and it's not crystallizing. That is why NNPC saw the realities. We know the market price of these commodities. And as soon as that indication was given, we knew that government can no longer fund it. And therefore, we decided to adjust your price.
The worrying aspect of all this is that subsidy was meant to end in June, meaning that the Nigerian people are not supposed to pay heavily until the end of June. It's like somebody going to the shop and paying for your meal, asking you to go pick up that meal, only for you to get to that shop and you were asked to pay more money before picking up your meal. That is exactly what this government is doing. This fuel has been subsidized, meaning the price is already down. But Tinubu's government is saying, Nigerians, before you take this fuel, you have to pay more money to us because we are broke. They just want to make money from the ordinary Nigerian citizens. This is the kind of renewed hope promised by Tinubu to Nigerians. Let me allow you listen to Kari speak.
Some people were of the view that the upward adjustment of pump price was a hasty move, considering the fact that, as you've explained, and Rufai had thoughts on that the NNPC and other oil marketers are still in possession of the old stock of petrol that the government had already subsidized. How would you react to this? What explanation would you give to this? I understand you've talked about commodities and the likes, but there's still that thought around why is there an immediate adjustment, upward adjustment in price?
No, this is typical. Anytime you have price adjustment, just like anything in the market, when you go to buy tomato and the price changes the next day, you have the old stock, you sell it at the new prices. Otherwise, two things will happen. You can't go back to the market to procure And incidentally, also, it is impossible to take it back. So this is reality of market. It is applies to every commodity, not just petroleum. What you won't do is that the supply point today, now when people buy bulk from us, oil marketers and oil marketing companies, including our retail business, once that transfer takes place, you do it at the market and then the market adjusts itself subsequently. It's not something that you can say, look, until your old stock finishes in your hands, you are not able to come back to the new price. It could have been the other way around. Price could have collapsed. Downwards, could have allowed downward collapse, and all those holding the old stock would have to sell at the lower price to arrive at the market conditions. It's really nothing strange. This is a stock management issue, and it's very typical. No one can do anything different about this.
Okay, Mr. Carey, it's good to see you, and thanks for coming on Arise News today. It's very brave of you to come, and we really appreciate your presence. So let me ask you, I spent a year in Ghana not too long ago, and I know that every single time there's a change in price of petrol, it goes up. So the question I want to ask you is, with the removal of subsidies, are we now going to be experiencing only upward adjustments in price of PMS? If no, when will prices begin to moderate to a lower level, if ever?
Not at all. The prices we are seeing today at our station is the current market price of the commodity. So what this means is that prices in the market can go down at any time, and of course the market will adjust itself. The beauty of this is that there will be new entrants, because oil marketing companies now, their reluctance to come into the market all along is the very fact that there's a subsidy regime that is in place. And that subsidy regime doesn't have guarantee of repayment back to those who provide the product at subsidized prices. Now that the market regulates it, oil marketing companies can actually import product, or even if it is produced locally, they can buy and take it into the market and sell it at its commercial price. Therefore, you will see competition, even with NNPC. And by the way, by law, NNPC cannot do more than 30% of the market going forward. As soon as the market stabilizes, oil marketing companies are able to come in. It means that even the requirement of energy security in the law indicates that you have to be able to have at least 30% of the stock in the country. This is really what it means. It will be against anti-competition law. Competition will surely come in, and definitely the market will regulate the price itself. And therefore, this is just an instantaneous price. In a week, 2 weeks, you can continue to see adjustment that is happening in many jurisdictions. Countries have different approaches to it. Companies have different approaches to it. Competition will guide that. But ultimately, you will see changes in price downwards. It is very, very potentially very likely. And because efficiency will come in, mind you, as we speak now, every burden of inefficiency in the system, from the marine all the way to fuel station of everyone, including oil marketing company, is borne by the subsidy regime. But as soon as competition comes in, people will become more efficient in their depots, in managing their trucks, in managing their fuel stations, so that people can come to their station. And I'm sure you have seen this even today around locations all over the country, where there's a difference of 2 to 3 naira. You see motorists going to the stations where they can have that difference. So this will regulate the market, and on its own, it will come down naturally. And I don't see any doubt around this. Well, it's not a fixed price. We are not announcing any price. All we did was to see variable prices depending on our cost by location and by the realities around us, knowing fully well that NNPC is the single supplier of the market today, and we are seeing that exit coming very, very quickly. There will be no monopoly. NNPC will not continue to be the supplier of this product alone, and therefore we see the comfort for the consumer. They will see that oscillation, and that moderation will come. The master will work, including NNPC. I don't see this as a single price for the moment.
Thank you so much, Mr. Carey. And Mr. MD, I'm glad that you've mentioned new players coming into the market and there being more competition. My question is the exchange rate. What exchange rate does the NNPC use to import refined fuel into the country? And if there are going to be more players in the market, are those players going to be using the parallel markets to price what they bring into the country, which will then factor into how they sell to the rest of the country?
I'm sure you must have heard what Mr. President said around exchange rate normalization. And that would simply mean a single exchange rate market for everyone. As we speak today, NNPC uses the official exchange rate, which of course will now be subject of the stabilization that will be created by the announcement of Mr. President. We see this coming very, very soon and very shortly. Once that happens, everybody, including the NNPC, will access FX at the same rate. And of course, obviously, when you have change of this nature, it is always a transition. You will see this happening, a gradual exit of the NNPC in the official exchange rate. And of course, ultimately, that there will be a single market rate to which NNPC itself will be subject to. So I don't see any complete uprising of the FX in the market going forward.
Okay, so just to follow up, so that means if we theoretically say we move closer towards the parallel market rates, depending on what that single rate is, does that not mean that the fuel prices will go up? Because if you're saying that NNPC is using the official exchange rate and we're using that to determine 515 in Bayelsa or 537 in Abuja or 490 in Lagos, does that not mean that if other players use a rate closer to the parallel market, doesn't that mean we will see higher fuel costs, higher prices than what is being used at the NNPC stations for other players in the market?
No, I do not think so, because what this will do, this situation will do, is, of course, it will also regulate consumption, mind you. When you have higher prices of commodities, very typical, you regulate your consumption, and that means the volume of the product you are going to require will come down very, very naturally. At least my estimate is that probably about 30% of the volume of the consumption will come down. And I've continuously said over and over again that as we speak today now, there is no verifiable data to say the level of consumption in this country. But we know the evacuation from our depots. And that evacuation number will come down at least by 30%. If that happens, it also means collateral decrease in the requirement of FX in the market. Therefore, the same source of FX that NNPC has access to, all of the market will have access. I know and I'm aware of ongoing engagements to ensure that everyone else has access to that FX, that single window market for the FSA. Once that happens, you will not see any spiral. You will not see any change that is significant. It will not happen. And therefore, I do not see any fears around the exchange rate impact on the price of the PMS.
Okay, Mr. Kyari. At first, I'd like to ask you, what is the NNPC rate as we speak, or what is the band as we speak? Can you tell us the specific number? Number two, what was the calculation behind arriving at that number? What was the calculation?
I think this is very technical, probably not that I do not know. I don't think this is a platform to compute arithmetic. And I completely agree with you that, yes, there must be a basis of this competition. This is the market reflective rate of the commodity at this point.
So what informed the market reflection?
Cost of order.
What informed the market reflection now? What were the computational forces that informed that market reflection that which you hedged at this price?
First of all, the price of petroleum motor spirit is an international price. You can just Google right now and you'll see it. The import price is not secret. Nobody can dispute this. So it's there. You can do it. You can convert to Naira and you'll see what that means. And secondly, around the value chain, you have number of indices. I don't know whether I should bore you with this or bore the public with this. You have to have the cost of ship-to-ship transfers, cost of holding this product in the depots, cost of also managing trucks from the depot all the way to fuel station, cost of also managing the product at the fuel station, and also several other margins, that of the marketers, that of the depot owners, that you have to factor. And there are numbers around it. I can't recollect all of them this moment, but I know that we look at all these all the way to the fuel depot before we arrive at the price that you are seeing in the depot. So it's really a lot of science around this, but of course it is verifiable and if necessary, maybe subsequently we can actually publish how we went about it.
So what's the exact band as we speak today? The exact band. We want some exactitude.
There is no band. My brother, there is no band. You see that the price in Maiduguri is different from Kano, is different from Sokoto, is different from Abuja, Owerri, and so on and so forth. There is nothing like ban. I think that is the error of the past, where we create bans around pricing. The market doesn't work in ban, it works around realities. So whatever it takes you to take this product from Lagos into Maiduguri is very different from what it will do to take you into Abuja. And therefore, those computations, every marketer does this. It's for every commodity. By the way, if you buy diesel, that you know today that diesel probably in Abuja is somewhere around 640, and it will not be the same price in Maiduguri, it will not be the same price in Sokoto, and also it can't be the same price in Lagos. So it's distinct. Oil companies do this. It's not secret. And competition will come in. It's not the kind of Coca-Cola stuff that you have single price for everything all over the country. No, it doesn't work that way. And therefore, every company looks at the competition. And by the way, as we go forward, NNPC will also become the competition. Companies will see the prices of NNPC and gauge their pricing around this increasing efficiency so that ultimately customers can come to them. So there's nothing like a band that will exist now. It is a market reality price that it will be seen from time to time. Companies will adjust. Sometimes, by the way, I'm sure you're aware that sometimes companies can actually lose to sell. When you have pressures from your bank, which is cheaper for you to sell up your product at a lower price and pay up your bank than to keep it and sell at the same price that is little higher, companies can opt to this. And this is how trading works. Companies sometimes lose to take position in the future. So a number of market dynamics will come into play, and it's not really about a ban. And I think the era of bans are gone. Competition will come in, and I'm sure that, you know, even in AGO market today, there's nothing like a band that you can see, but people still have differentiated price. Even within Abuja today now, one fuel station sells higher than the other. And this is also reality. And this is a factor of either efficiency, desperation, the need to go back to the market, and very many other conditions that companies see. And of course, the choice of the customer, and I'm sure some of the executive customers, you know, they'll ask the truck to bring the diesel into their homes. You know, obviously you're going to pay more because you're paying for that comfort and that luxury. So there is nothing like a ban in pricing petroleum motor, just like any other commodity. But am I suggesting that the Coca-Cola kind of situation where the price in Lagos is the same thing as the price in Maiduguri is very unlikely for this commodity because it's an essential commodity. It's not like Coca-Cola where when customers they don't do it by choice and they can actually decide to throw it away, that you don't have to take it. So this is different. That kind of a single price across the country as a result of market forces or trader choices cannot happen in petroleum product. And therefore you will have no ban, just coming straight to your question, there will be no bans to be determined by market reality. And also that competition will make the members of the general public benefit from it. And competition is good always. In the absence of this, that is why you see all the issues around commodity pricing, particularly for PMS across our country, all the issues around that you see, fraud, all kinds of things, round tripping, cross-border smuggling, and so on and so forth, that I've always advocated, and no one can stop it. Only the market can regulate it. And I believe that the market will regulate it more than anything else to retain the value here, value for the ordinary people who will benefit from this, while the affluent ones, you know, can afford what they can do. I think this is just the reality that it is going to do. You will see massive change in the market structure. You will see that reality will come in. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Mr. Kyari. I'd like to go back to my earlier question with regards to why the hasty price hike. From our understanding, there's a budget provision for subsidy till the end of June. That's what the former Minister of Finance said, the previous administration said, and that's what Nigerians had accepted. Why didn't you wait to increase the price till at least the 1st of July after the subsidy provision had expired? Are you saying that you haven't paid subsidy on the fuel, that you have adjusted the prices up? Because many Nigerians are wondering why the sudden price hike. I think that's the question that people want to know this morning. Why immediate? Why not wait till the end of June for when which there was a provision for subsidy in the budget?
Actually, that is the issue. You know, you can make budgets. You know, there was provision of 6 trillion naira in 2022 and 3.7 trillion naira in 2023, up to half year. You know, I can tell you that not a single naira of that has been funded. And what did we do as NNPC? Because by law, we are required to pay taxes, royalties as any other company. And these are our fiscal obligations, and of course, ultimately to declare profit to our shareholders. But I'm sure you are aware that this company has broken even. We are doing very well. We have profit level of 687 trillion naira in fiscal 2021. So this is huge, but you can't make that dividend available to its shareholder because you have the burden of subsidy. And that burden of subsidy must be financed, because the provision in the law simply means that government will write a check to NNPC at the end of the month for the service that we are providing to the nation. That check has not been written at all. And what did we do? We held back the fiscal obligation because there's nothing we can do. There's no other way of doing it. Despite the fact that we are holding back the fiscal obligations for 2022 and half year 2023, there's still a net deficit of 2.8 trillion naira that the Federation should have written check for us. And therefore, you have the budget, absolutely, there's a provision. You do not have the cash to back it up. And you also don't have the fiscal obligation that should have come from the NNPC to settle for this. And definitely it means that there is provision of the end of the June, yes, absolutely in the Appropriation Act, but you do not have the cash backing. And therefore you don't have the money. You can't give what you don't have. And I want to borrow something that I had a very, very senior person said this. They say you can't pull water from a dry well. It doesn't exist. Once it's not there, there is nothing you can do. You can't provide for it. And therefore, the provision in the budget is clearly, yes, that's provision of the law. It must be funded. But funding for petroleum, for imports, for bringing product into your country, for taking it to the fuel center, won't wait for when you are ready to provide the financing. Your customers, your suppliers are not going to wait for this. The oil marketing companies who will take this product from you, they don't care how you do it. Once these products are with you, they will ensure that it goes into the market. So nobody's going to wait. It's a ticking clock that doesn't stop. The moment it stops, the whole energy system of the country will stop, and therefore it won't wait for subsidy. But we can't wait for anything other than the very fact that if we continue with this, it will go to a default point where we will not be able to produce, even if it is processed locally. Let me make it very clear. There's this distinction that, yes, of course, the cost of import is in FX, and therefore, if we make it locally, you're going to have, it's not going to change anything. Even when you do local, that we get to that point of default because the refineries, whether it is our own when we complete or the Dangote refinery when it becomes fully commercially available, there will still be a balance of cost. That means that there must be a cost that is reflective of the cost of production, cost of crude oil, and so many other things that come with it. And ultimately, you will still end up with subsidy because you have to sell it at the price that is subsidized. Once that happens, you will have that delta, and you do not have the cash to back it up. And it's a very dire situation for our country. We understand this, and these are very wider issues around this. But the key issue is that this country no longer have the resources to back this up. It's no longer issue around whether or not when you remove subsidy you're going to have money to do something else with it. Today you just don't have the money, and you can have the numbers in the appropriation, but we don't have the cash in our hands.
Okay, so Mr. Kyari, many people are of the view that the common man are the ultimate beneficiaries of the fuel subsidy regime, and they will suffer. And the suffering has begun because of the price of transport across the board. But there are other people who say that subsidy only benefit the rich, and that it is subsidizing the rich people. Where do you stand in this conversation or this debate? And what's your thought in terms of ameliorating the suffering of the poor?
Yes, first of all, let me explain what it means when we say the rich benefit from this. But I'm sure if you look at our statistics, over time, just go take a look at the statistics of the evacuation from depots of the volume of products that go out. By sheer, not coincidence, this is not accident, you will see that the huge volumes goes to locations where you have higher standard of living in the country. I don't want to mention names of those locations. When you check, you will see this. And therefore, almost 48% of the total evacuation or the consumption in this country goes to practically few locations where essentially the elites live. And of course, that means that all of us are subsidizing that small community of people. And it's very reflective. When you come to Abuja today now, you see convoy of cars, of executives, of politicians, of government leaders, of business leaders, of all sorts. You see convoys of 5 to 6 cars, consuming up to 100 liters each. And of course, the meaning of this is that we are actually subsidizing this class of people. And car owners, it's not just about transportation. I'm sure you are aware that most of the transportation that is used for the movement of commodities, of food, of taking product from the farms into the markets, and everything is largely driven by the AGO or diesel. And therefore, if there's anything like subsidy that should be of value to the common man, it should go to the AGO. But that's not there. But what you have is on PMS. Yes, transportation, today the infrastructure for transportation is still being developed. It doesn't go into the optimum position, but the fact still remains is that PMS plays a significant role in transportation. I agree with it completely. That's why I had a lot of Nigerians, saying, "Oh, the price of transportation has risen very quickly. It's going to impact the ordinary man." Absolutely, yes. The ordinary man, the common man, the vulnerable takes both hits. The value of the subsidy goes to the elites, and also the pains that subsidy removal creates also comes to them. So either way, you lose. And therefore, what will this do to the ordinary man? First of all, market will regulate it. There's no doubt about it. Market will also regulate the cost of transportation. There's no doubt about it. What people do is that they quickly jack. There's no arithmetic around it. People say, okay, yesterday I bought the fuel at 200 naira, today it's 500, and therefore I'm going to jack up my price of transportation by some number, 3 times, 4 times. The market itself will regulate that. It will come down because realities will come down. People will have no choice than to allow their vehicles to come with passengers, and realities will down on even the transportation segment of our society to come down this price. So it will come down. There is always this truth around when prices change upwards. People will react knee-jerk, And after that, it comes back to reality. Yes, will that mean immediate pain for ordinary people? Yes, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. But I'm also aware that, in every jurisdiction where such situations come, unfortunately, today's situation is very different. When you do a calculated and measured exit from a subsidy regime, it's a very different conversation than when you are forced by realities or the very fact that you can no longer afford it. You can do subsidy, you can continue to do it. It's about priorities. For instance, if I say, look, let's abandon everything, let's do the subsidy, let's not pay salary, let's not do transportation, let's not do roads. This is a choice that will come in. I don't think this is a wise choice to make. As in today's case, the alternatives to subsidy are better than not doing it. And therefore, you're better off allowing the other segments not to fund this. Because as today, for you to keep the subsidy in today's context, you have to abandon many things you are physically doing today side by side with the subsidy regime today. And therefore, it is just not available for you. It's a different context. Now, would something change? Absolutely. And I'm aware there are engagement going on with our stakeholders to see, okay, what can we do? What can government do to its citizen? It's very typical. And I also understand this. The disposition itself of the president-elect, Mr. President, is very, very clear, people-centric. Make sure the ordinary man doesn't suffer. Make sure that we alleviate their suffering and by every means possible so that there is greater expansion of the economy, more people back to work, more people are able to access the resources of the state, and ultimately there will be prosperity around the country. This is absolutely credible and this is functional and it is possible. But for you to do this, you must have to face the functional market situation. And the market situation is that you can't afford it, you have to do something about it, and of course interventions will naturally come. And I'm aware that a number of steps are being taken. Some of them are out there in the space, but I know that there are things that are going on concurrent and at the same time with what is going on. Yes.
Thank you so much, sir. So looking at the future now, you've talked a lot about smuggling because of arbitrage, and that's the price differential in fuel here and in other countries. Can we say now, looking to the future, that this market-regulated regime for the downstream sector kills off smuggling of petrol? And does that mean we'll possibly get more accurate data on consumption going forward?
Absolutely. The market will control volumes today, not NNPC, not the regulator. So the market will control the volume of consumption. And it will be very obvious, and data will now be more credible because even the marketing companies will now have to face the reality of the market and also working with their banks. So those data will clearly become very, very available, very distinct and very, very different. So there is nothing around it. There is no arbitrages around it for you to take advantage of. Therefore, the numbers will become real and it will have very, very secure and absolute data. Of course, technology can come to play, bringing out the right data going forward. I know a number of steps are being taken by government to ensure that data collection is appropriate at the fuel station, up to the fuel station level. So data will be available also by gravity. But of course, the reality that there are fiscal steps that are being taken to make sure that those data are available by the authority, by the regulatory authority. Okay. This is very, very correct. Now, cross-border smuggling. Is very obvious that when you have an arbitrary regime, the same thing happens in cocaine. I always refer to this. Cocaine movement happens because there's a fresh differential between borders. This is just the reality, and people go into it. The same way, when you have huge difference between your neighbors and your country, you are selling 195 naira and it sells 500, 600 naira across your border. There's nothing you can do to. You have 4,500 kilometers of land border. And let me put it in context. When you take a truck of fuel in Lagos and take it to Maiduguri, your natural margin that is allowed by market and by circumstance or by the provisions of any other computation that you can do today, probably around 270,000 to 300,000 naira. And if you take the same volume across the volume, you sell it as 500 to 600 naira, you make close to 12 to 17 million naira. So there is nothing that can stop it. And this will crash completely because that distinction, that delta is there. Because what you're doing, literally, you are providing FX to your neighbors. You're also providing subsidy on commodity for your neighbors, and they have no obligation. They don't mind, This is market because people will still take it to them. They don't have to import. They don't have to expose their countries to letters of credit requirement and so on and so forth. All this will collapse, and you will see that those volumes you are seeing, even if it does happen, it will be market. As you are aware, we are expanding our market. NNPC is going to the countries around us, and it will now be a trade rather than smuggling.
Okay. Real quickly, I'd like to ask a couple of questions. Number one will be, what are the states of our refineries, the turnaround maintenance that we've been hearing for quite a while? Because for all of this to work, we have to have some level of local production too, apart from people spending our forex to bring that in. Also, How will the Dangote refinery buffer as regards what Dangote refinery has as output and what we really need on ground? Thirdly, I'd like to also know the data on how you pull out, all right? What you pull out, as in what you take out of your stock or what people come to take out of your stock. Those 3 questions as a wrap up.
I didn't get the last one. I didn't get the last one around the stock. What did you say?
What they evacuate from your stock on a daily basis?
Well, let me answer if there's any gap you can come in. First, let me thank you. First of all, I think it's a perfect opportunity to explain what domestic refining means. It's very important to understand this. There's this misconception that once you refine domestically, the price is going to crash to maybe half of the price. That's not correct. The distinction between domestic processing and import is simply one thing. First, it's 2 things. First of all, it gives you security of supply. That means supply is by your door. You don't need 14 days that we typically need to move product from, say, Europe into Nigeria. So that goes away. You have access to this product. When you have any dislocations in your supply and distribution system, you have very, very little time. You require just very short time for you to regulate this and move around. So it gives you security of supply. This is the number 1 thing it does. And secondly, it does another thing. It creates a market around it. Employments, taxes, and very many other sorts of benefits that will come to the country. Now, when it comes to the price of the commodity itself, remember that petroleum is priced at international price, so it doesn't have local pricing. Therefore, at the gate of the refinery, you are typically pricing it as if you are taking that product at Rotterdam or Amsterdam. That means that the conversion of FX determining the market value is determined by the international market now. So, but there will be a delta. That delta is the cost of freight from your import location into your country. That will substantially come down. And therefore, you will see a difference in price as a result of the freight difference, which is typically around 21 to 27 naira to take a liter from, say, Rotterdam into Nigeria. And also some value in local refining, in the sense that probably lower cost of labor and so on, and that you can have another margin of 2 to 3 naira that can come as a result of that. So ultimately, at high prices, the distinction is there, but it's not significant. And that needs to be very, very clear to ordinary. I'm sorry, I lost the mic, and unfortunately.
Okay, we'll just take a quick, what is it called on time? So you've been hearing the interview there. I mean, it's just been saying a lot while we're allowing fix his mic. Okay, so just continue, sir.
What do we do going forward with our own refineries? As you're aware, yes, it is delayed the delivery of the Port Harcourt refinery turnaround maintenance or rehabilitation exercise. We don't want to explain it. We don't want to lament. We'll invite our colleagues to come with us sometime. If you are free, I'll come with you so they can see the level of the work that we are doing. We did have delays. These delays were caused by global supply chain issues, not distinct to us, not different from any other jurisdiction, but there were delays, and we'll deliver this by the end of the year. And of course, there's work going on in Warri Refinery that is already in earnest. And of course, the Kaduna Refinery has very different situation. We have awarded the contract for Kaduna Refinery, and this is also going in place. But ultimately, the end result will be that you are going to have surplus of production in the country by the end of next year. I'm sure that you are aware the Dangote refinery has been commissioned. It will go into commercial production in July or in August. And once that happens, you will have significant volume for PMS. I'm not sure we can say we will have all the volume that we need immediately, but that will happen. Once that happens and we fix our own refineries, the other small interventions that are going on, the small refineries that are coming on, we don't want to speak about it. Let the realities come on the table. Once that happens, this country will be the hub of petroleum, motor spirit, and other products of petroleum, and it will be the supplier to the West African sub-region and other regions, and there will be a reversal of the market to other destinations. This will happen. But is this something that can crystallize tomorrow? The answer is no, and we regret this situation, but we know that we're going to overcome this.
All right.
All right.
Okay,
so Mr. Kyari, the NNPC has the mandate to guarantee energy security for Nigeria, and has been playing that role by being the sole importer of petrol for quite a while. Will this removal make NNPC to cease being the sole supplier of petrol? So how will other oil marketers operate in this new dispensation of no subsidy? All right, I'll take that question again. Mr. Kyari, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, I do now.
I'll repeat the question. The NNPC has the mandate to guarantee energy security for Nigeria, and it has been playing that role by being the sole importer of petrol for quite a while. Will this removal make NNPC to cease being the sole supplier of petrol? And then how will other oil marketers operate in this new dispensation of no subsidy?
First of all, I mentioned earlier that by law, anti-competition law, NNPC can only do maximum of 30% of supply of the commodity into the market. This is by law, so there will be no monopoly in the market. And also, the removal of the subsidy means that people can access FX freely, at the same level with NNPC, and all marketing companies will now be able to import product and sell in the country. So this is clearly a market-driven situation, and market-driven situation means that other players will come in. NNPC, by the way, let me put it very clear, this is a very insignificant part of our NNPC business. Of course, it's the most destructive, but obviously it's a part of the business that NNPC is not keenly interested in monopolizing. So there's no benefit in it to the NNPC, but there's a requirement of law for us to provide energy security for the country. So we'll play in this space, we'll manage the volume in this space for the benefit of the ordinary man and the common man. Yes, we have that balancing role in terms of providing energy security. That's provision of the law. Now, private sector will definitely come in because there will be access to FX for all, and there will be alternative access to FX. Marketers buy new when the FX regime is normalized. It means that people can freely bring in FX into the country. There will be multiple platforms of access to FX, and this competition will set, as we're already doing. Today, in HGO, just an example, annual daily consumption of HGO in the country is around 12 million liters a day. Today, NNPC makes less than 20% of those volume into the market. The others are doing it. They are sourcing FX even at the parallel market. But once the market is now stabilized, the FX market is stabilized, you will see more players. Our target is to remain at the provisions of the law around the 30% of the market, and we'll encourage that, we'll make sure that happens. But of course, is that something that can kick in tomorrow? Yes, there's always transition to everything. Well, we know that we have a plan. We're not going to leave any gap. This supply will be sustained until the market comes into play and will gradually exceed, not just by choice, by the sheer forces of the market. Once we see more volume coming into the market, we have to reduce our volume because there will be no market for it.
Okay, so just to wrap up then, you said that the supply will be sustained. Help us understand how we're going to, or timeline within which we'll see the queues disappearing. And what will be your final word to Nigerians who are suffering under this pressure? What will be your final word to them?
First of all, I think we need to understand why the queues are there in the first instance. First is panic. Panic in the sense, not what we used to know where there are supply gap, because you don't have supply gap. Customers will see as soon as the indication was made that we could exit the subsidy regime, people will rush to the fuel station, let me buy the cheap fuel before they change the prices. This is very typical. When people go into these fuel stations, they will buy, instead of buying 10,000 naira fuel, they will buy 20, 30,000. Of course, that creates the pressure. It causes the delays in filling the tanks of the cars in the fuel station, and naturally you will have queues coming up. The second reason is inventory management. Oil marketing companies will know that they have to go back. They know the current market realities. They know that if you just dispose it at that price, you can't go back to the market. It's very typical. They will have to have a sense of the price in the market for them to determine what happens. And that's why many fuel stations, of course, except the major marketers and NNPC, we continue to sell. That's why the very fact that we see the market realities. And ultimately, many fuel stations shut in their fuel station, or even the number of pumps that they are using to dispense to enable them be able to go back to the market. So this is what really caused the queue, and of course this will dissipate. I don't think it's going to last probably 2-3 days. It will go because now the realities are got the certainty around the pricing environment, and no one is in doubt around the pricing environment. Therefore, this will go back. And of course, the very fact that supplies are there, even at the depots. You remember that yesterday, because of the price uncertainty, a number of depots didn't operate for very obvious reason, so that they can have clarity around this. And I am aware this morning that loading has come in nearly all the depots on the basis of the new realities that are present. So this gap will vanish. And of course, naturally also, because it is not a downward review in price, it's an upward review in prices. People will stop taking too much more than they need. And of course, those queues in the fuel station will naturally go. It's not the same situation that we have.
So guys, you can see that the NNPC is telling the Nigerian people that the government does no longer have money to take care of you. Go take care of yourself. They want Nigerians to start taking care of them. You can imagine the untold hardship these people are going to bring on Nigerians. Nobody wants subsidy. No right-thinking Nigerian wants subsidy. But something that has been there for this long, if you want to remove it, you can't just remove it abruptly. You can't just take it out like that and just tell your people to go and perish. No, and you can see that is exactly what this government is doing. They just came up overnight, took away a subsidy, and they are telling Nigerians that they don't have money, instead of them to have planned properly before removing subsidy. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, turn on the notification bell. Please give this video a like so that YouTube can recommend it to others. And let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thank you.